Why, hello YouTube. This is Mage again, and today we're bringing you a video with all of the tools and external programs and websites that I think you could ever need to know to play Path of Exile. There are two sections to this video primarily. The front section that we're going to go through first is going to have what I would consider the basic tools and websites that I think a new player should know. The idea of this front section is that we're targeting like new players, perhaps some Diablo 4 refugees, people who haven't played very much at all, might not know about these tools. These are pretty basic. If you've been playing for a while, you definitely already know all of these ones, and you'll definitely be able to skip the first 5 and move on to the more advanced ones that are at the end. If you're new, if you're one of those new people, the end half of this video where I go into all of the advanced ones is probably going to be way more than you need and way more in depth and way too overwhelming to use too many tools at once. This is not everyone needs all of these tools. Most people do not need all of these tools, but some people will want this one will be really good to them and that one will be really good to them. And so this is just a video to introduce all of them so you know what's out there. All right, let's jump into the list. Oh, I lost my mouse. Yikes. All right, starting with the very first one and the very most basic tool. This is almost mandatory to even be able to play Path of Exile at this point. Path of Building Community Fork. This is, if you're brand new, this is our build planning program. It's a third-party program. We do run it outside, but because the game is so very complex and there are so very many options, this is the program that we all use, the entire community collectively uses to plan and share builds. Every build guide you look at is going to have what we call a Path of Building link, and that's going to get put in right here. When you go import builds, and you'll put it in right there, and that'll load the build up. This will have everything in it from the tree. Usually most creators will put leveling trees in it. This is my own SRS build. So this is just like leveling trees and whatnot. There'll be multiple trees there. They usually have skill links all over here, so you can plan everything out, and full item sets, sometimes multiple item sets. These are sometimes pulled from in-game or sometimes just like theoretically created, because we can just create any item here. But if you haven't played PoE before and you're just getting into it this season, you're going to need Path of Building. It's going to be immensely important. This is, I don't want to call it mandatory, but realistically it feels pretty mandatory. It's a relatively small program, easy to download, little bit confusing to get used to, but you better start now because we need it. Oh, I lost my mouse. Yikes. This is, again, everyone who plays this for a long time already super familiar with it. This is Filterblade. This is our loot filter website. This is pretty mandatory to use. There's no way you're going to get by without using some sort of filter. Generally speaking, Neversink is the guy who runs Filterblade and does all of these filters. He's going to have some default filters at default strictnesses. You're never ever going to want soft or regular. You're going to want to start your very first playthrough on semi-strict as far as I'm concerned. If not, move up to strict if you're experienced with RPGs, but just not this one. This is also where any other creator or you or your friends can create their own filters, customize them however you like. There are a billion options. There's plenty of videos on this. There's plenty of options to do. This is where they'll all be shared. It is worth noting, a little bit of shameless self-plug, I also maintained through that website myself several different versions of loot filters that are specifically tailored to the current softcore trade league at all times, meaning It'll regularly be updated and you will never have to worry about it. So I will also link to this page. These are just my filters from Filterblade, and you'll want Baylor League Start, General Mapping, and Strict, and you can just hit follow on all three of those, and you'll never have to worry about loot filters or update them personally again. You'll have 3 strictnesses to pick from in-game, and you can just use them forever. They'll automatically push updates to you, or you can go about using one of the default ones that exists, or one that a friend links you, or whatever. They're all done through Filterblade. You're going to have to get used to accepting that. You do not have to know how to customize any of these. You don't have to know. There's like a lot of things going on here, and you don't have to know any of it, but you do have to know that this website exists and that it's where you'll get your filters from. So that's Filterblade. The next one you might not need immediately, but it's worth bookmarking. Oh, I lost my mouse. Yikes. The next one is CraftOfExile. This is basically a simulator for crafting. That's all this is, because in this game, crafting is confusing and it can be very expensive. And so in order to learn how to craft or plan what you're going to craft, this website follows all of the same rules as in-game. So you can essentially just practice with every single currency item, every craft, every meta craft, everything is here all of the time. This is not something you're going to need immediately upon starting, but it is something that plenty of new players start to use within their first league. It is worth bookmarking. I'm not going to go in depth on how CraftOfExile works or how the simulator or emulators work, because it's a lot of information. It's just worth having this bookmark for when you decide to start crafting your own gear. Knowing that this website exists will give you a huge step up in being able to like plan or practice the way you're going to craft some things. Oh, I lost my mouse. Yikes. Moving on to the next step. POEWiki.net. Now, the reason I've left POEWiki.net here is because when you Google things, quite often you end up getting the fandom wiki for Path of Exile. There's a second wiki that's called fandom. It is objectively bad. We don't want to use that at all. Its information is very, very often out of date. The layout is far more confusing. It's no good. More information on that website is wrong than is right. So this is a wiki just like any other wiki. It's just POEWiki.net. It's fantastic. It's got almost all information up to date. Occasionally something's a little tiny bit out just because things in this game change so often. But realistically, this one's updated way more often by way more dedicated people. We're very happy to use this wiki. It is almost always right, just very occasionally wrong, whereas the other one is like way wrong all the time. So this is the wiki to use. Don't find yourself using the fandom wiki by accident. It is horribly out of date way too often. Oh, I lost my mouse. Yikes. Is POELab.com. A lot of new players definitely struggle with Lab. Lab is very, very annoying. This has got 2 things in it that are pretty good. One is it's just got a lot of information. There are cheat sheets and guides and all sorts of things for different mechanics here, which you could look through. I wouldn't just go searching through these, but when you find something you want to understand, chances are the basic information will be here. These are never super in-depth. These are just letting you understand how everything works. It also has, when you click on the daily layouts right here, it also has a full layout of the current room updated every day for each individual lab so that you don't get lost. It'll also tell you what kind of weapon the guy is wielding, what kind of traps there are, and where on each room the door is connected. So like in room 1 here, it'll be the top right hand side that'll lead to this room. Then it'll be the bottom right hand side that'll lead you down here. Then the top right hand side that'll lead you here, top right there, top left to go up here, top right to go down here, just like that. So they're all just like roughly showing you exactly how to get through every lab, which is immensely helpful. Also, different weapons mean different things, different buffs mean different things, and all of that information can also be found on POE Lab. So that is all that I think new players need to know. If you're a brand new player, if this is your first league playing, those are the 5 things that you need to get started. I do not think you need anything further in this video. Anyone who's been around the block for a little bit and already knows all the super basic ones, now's where it gets a little more interesting. Oh, I lost my mouse. Yikes. So, we're going to start with one that's relatively new. I only found out about last league and has improved a lot since last league. Now I'm going to attempt to pronounce this. Lailloken. Nailed it. That's 100% right. So this is an overlay program. It uses auto hotkey. Most of us are already pretty familiar with auto hotkey and what it does. I first got introduced to this because it was a really good way to level through all of the acts. It always told me, go here, kill this person, return to town, pick up this quest. And it kept track of where I was all of the time and sent me places. And I thought that was cool for new players, but what really attracted me to it was this similar to Weak Aura's clone frames deal, where it lets you highlight an area of your screen, say your flasks or say a cooldown of a skill, and let you put at any transparency you pick a second image of that somewhere near your character. Now you can't interact with it, you can't click it. Once it's like locked in place, it's just there. But it lets you have your cooldowns and everything overlaid right near your character instead of right in the bottom of the screen where either your flasks are or your skills are. And I found that incredibly useful. Since then, it's gotten a whole lot of different things added to it. So we've got like Sanctum Rule tooltips overlays. So it'll register what room you're looking at and give you a little thing that says you've got to kill guards here. This one's a battle arena. Plenty of different things like information on the weapon you're looking over, or what explicit roles are, or single hotkey for popular websites to pop all of those out, custom search strings. There's just a whole lot of things here. Little overlays of like where you're supposed to be putting your points. There's just hotkeys for all of the different things that you could need. Syndicate and just everything. Everything is in this one. It's incredibly useful. It's definitely going to take a little bit of time to set up. It's relatively new, but I very much like it. So far, I'm absolutely in love with it. And so far, it hasn't broken any terms of services. It is dancing near the lines pretty often, but it hasn't broken any yet. And no one's got in trouble for it yet. And plenty of people have been using it on stream. So for now, at least, they seem to be quite acutely aware of where the line is and not walking over it. So pretty happy with that. I cannot suggest this one enough. Absolutely in love with it. Oh, I lost my mouse. Yikes. The next one is the 2 trade programs that I use. Now there are a huge amount of trade programs that you could use. These ones are my favorite. The first one is Awakened POE Trade. This is what I use for pricing and selling things. Unfortunately, I don't have any in-game footage, but right now, basically it lets you price anything, pops up a little window, shows you all the prices. There's buttons that you can click to that'll directly open the trade site if you want to look at that. When you look at gear, you can select which pieces or which roles on that gear you think are important to price. And my personal favorite, anything you price at the top left here always tells you the conversion of chaos to divines. And if you click that little button with the 2 little arrows, it'll actually give you a little table of this is 0.1 of a divine equals this many chaos. 0.2 of a divine is this many chaos. 0.3 of a divine is this many chaos. Helps me a lot when I'm like pricing things or buying things and just trying to work out, you know, oh, what's 2.6 divines? Quick, I need to buy this thing. And I can just click the thing and not have to do math. So I love that. That's how I price and sell things. That's how I price and sell things. Oh, I lost my mouse. Yikes. The next one is POE Trade Companion. This one's my favorite for selling. I don't have any in-game footage of this, but we do have some screenshots. So this is what it looks like when somebody messages you. When someone sends you the trade website, you get this thing. It has an invite to party, ask to wait, already sold, or thank you buttons, or ask if you're still interested if you're AFK. And when you invite someone to a party, it shows you a little overlay over your stash tab that says, you're looking for this item, it's in this tab, and it shows you the corner square location of where it is. So this overlay doesn't change when you tab through stashes, but it'll tell you what stash it's in. So you just manually click shop and there'll be a little square there telling you where that item is, and you just pick it up and you trade it to a person for whatever they priced it at. And it's fantastic. It's worked super smooth. It's worked super smooth for a very long time. It's my favorite one. There are plenty of other options. If you're already super familiar with another one that's working well for you, don't bother changing. But if you don't have one, this is the one I suggest. Oh, I lost my mouse. Yikes. Whew. All right, moving on. The Chaos Recipe tool. This one, amazing for League Start. Amazing for League Start. It does use the old school POE session ID deal, which there are guides on this site on how to do it. But what you can see right here is a little GIF of how it works. It will lead you through what items to pick up out of your stash in what order to do each chaos recipe. It will also automatically, well, semi-automatically, change your loot filter to tell you to pick up extra items. So basically you'll set it to say, oh, I want 5 chaos recipes in my stash tab. And it will just change your filter to be like, you need more helmets. And boom, all helmets show up. And then when you dump helmets into your stash tab, it'll poll the stash tab, register that you've got enough helmets, and it'll go ding and warn you that the filter's been changed. And what that'll do is change your local filter, but it won't refresh the filter in the client, because if it refreshed the filter for you, that would be automation. But it does give you a little button to press that says reload filter. And if you press that, after it makes the little ding ding noise at you, it'll refresh the filter and turn helmets off. And you just continue about that until you've got as many chaos recipes as you set it to. Then you come here, you press the chaos recipe button, the do chaos recipe button, and then you just very quickly follow it around, click wherever it tells you to, vendor chaos recipes without a thought in the world. I would never do the chaos recipe without this tool. I don't have the brain capacity to track all of that myself. This thing's amazing. Absolutely use it. All right. Oh, I lost my mouse. Yikes. Which is fuzzy search. Fuzzy search is very, very, very simple. It does one thing. It puts this little tilde symbol in your search bar every single time. Now, you could just do that manually. You could just do it every single time. Every single time you click anywhere, you could just put the little tilde symbol in, and that would be the same as having this extension, but I'll never remember that. The extension does it for me. All this does is it makes it so that your searches no longer have to be incredibly specific or in order. They do have to be spelt right still, but for some reason you want damage to attacks. We can just go damn attack, and you go, oh, actually I want cold. And then you go, oh, actually I wanted it on bows. And as long as it's got all of those things in it, it shows up. So it just makes searching for things significantly easier. Instead of having to remember the exact specific wording of each individual mob, you just have to know some of it, close enough, and not even in the right order, and it'll show up for you. So links to that in the descriptions. It's just fuzzy search. It's a super easy extension. I feel like I couldn't live without it. It's amazing. You should definitely get it. The next one is the TFT Trade Extension. Now, this doesn't mean you have to use TFT, the server. This is just a trade extension. This does what this used to do. Better trading. Better trading technically still works. TFT Trade Extension is better. If you're still already using better trading and you've got tons and tons and tons of stuff already saved on it, just keep using better trading until it stops working one day and change when you have to. But if you haven't got an extension like this, you should start with the TFT Trade Extension because it is just going to be better. It lets you save a bunch of searches in whatever state you want and just be able to come back to them later. So you can see I've got a whole bunch of things here. I was looking for fractured ghastly eye jewels on my last league start, and now I just click that. Obviously this is a private league, so we're not going to find them in a private league. But if we look at standard, boom, here's a bunch of fractured stuff. Now these things can be quite complicated. They can be whatever kind of search you want. You can save them, return to them at a click. It's great. Absolutely fantastic. Love it. Oh, I lost my mouse. Yikes. The next one, I'm not really going to comment on very much. This is just POE Planner. This is where the best version of the Atlas tree for Atlas tree planning is done. You'll see a few things thrown around, a few different links, a few different websites that have Atlas tree planners. I've tried all of them. This one's by far the best, by far the smoothest, and it lets you save a whole bunch of different trees to come back to later. In fact, as many as you want. So this is my go-to. This is where I think everyone should be planning their trees. It does technically have a planner for your actual skill tree as well, but frankly, we're all doing that in Path of Building, so I find this bit to be irrelevant. It's all about the Atlas tree. This is the website for it. I wouldn't use any of the others. Oh, I lost my mouse. Yikes. One of my favorite new additions. One of my favorite new additions. The Regex POE.re. This is all of these will be linked. This has a whole bunch of functions. First of all, early league vendor recipes. Vendor searches, rather. This lets me do something like, say, I'm looking for movement speed boots of either kind, and I also need a 2 blue green and a 2 blue red. And now I have one vendor search string that I can just paste into game with a vendor window open that will search for exactly this link in any piece, or exactly this piece in any link, or 10 or 15% movement speed boots. And it will just highlight those if they exist, and it lets you just go paste, tab through the little vendor tabs. Don't see anything, close it. See something, grab it, move on with your life. That's fantastic. But then it does even more. When you're rolling maps later on, you can roll them all in your stash tab where you can search, and then you can select, for instance, oh, I can't do less recovery, and I can't do players cannot regen. Those two things would brick my build. Also, I can't do monsters reflect. And now you also want to get a quantity of, let's say, at least 70. And now you can just copy that into your stash tab where you're rolling all of your maps, and it will highlight everything for you, and you'll know which maps are good and which maps are bad without ever having to read a map mod again. You'll also never, ever put in a reflect map and kill yourself, because this does all the reading for you. Which is a personal favorite of mine, because I can't read. It also has things for Expedition Gwenin vendor, if you want to do that as well. Select what it is you're looking for. It'll make you a little string for Gwenin gambling. You can do the same thing in Heist. I'm not entirely sure that I've ever used the flask one, but if you are rolling flasks, especially if you're rolling them for profit, it will let you look up whatever combinations of any kind you want that could be worth money and let you alt spam a little faster. It'll also give you a string to look for all of the beasts that are actually worth money and not any of the ones that aren't worth money. So that one's cool. So there's a whole lot of them there. That's fantastic. That's referred to as the Regex. It's POE.re. Absolutely fantastic. Oh, I lost my mouse. Yikes. This one's especially useful for solo self-found or early league day 1 and 2 when we don't have access to money. This is basically just an anoint system, except it'll tell you what you can anoint with the oils you have. So if you come in and you just fill it out and you're like, oh, I've got 20 of them and 5 of those and 4 of those, and for some reason I have no Veridon oils, but I have 2 of them and 5 of them and 6 of them and only 2 of those, and I've got 1 of them. And now it tells you the entire list of things you have available to you with your current oils. And so I find that one super useful, especially early lead day 1 and 2 and solo self-found. That's all it does. That is all it does. It just lets you figure out what you can anoint with the oils you currently have. It will also include the ability to vendor those oils up. So if for some reason you can see it's using a Veridon oil, but you won't see any that need 2 Veridon oils, because right now I have none of those, but I do have enough amber oils to vendor up to 1 Veridon. So it's telling me I can do that, right? I can use 1 of them because I have enough for that. Oh, I lost my mouse. Yikes. Next one up, Vorici Calculator. Legacy name. We don't use Vorici anymore, but for those who don't know, your gear rolls the colors based on the stat requirement of that item. So we just tell something it has a 6 link. We say, oh, it's got 188 strength, and that's its only thing. But we actually want 5 greens and 1 red. And we find out, oh, that is very expensive. Maybe we don't want to do that here, since it's going to cost an average of 9,000 chromes to get that pre-6 linked 188 strength requirement chest to be 5 green, 1 red. Very expensive, but it'll also tell you the best way to do it, which is 3 greens at the bench, which has an average cost of 9,000 chromes, average attempt to 75, costs you 120 per try, even gives you a standard deviation for those who care. And then you go, ooh, maybe that's a little too much. Maybe I could use 3 greens, 1 blue, and 1 red, and 1 anything. And then it'll tell you, oh, well, here's the best. Now it's only going to cost you an average of 400. And then you're like, oh, that's interesting. And so you can use this to figure out what the best way to get a pre-linked piece of gear into the right colors is, just by reading the requirements off your item. Super easy, super effective. Oh, I lost my mouse. Yikes. My favorite, unfortunately, mine only was working for the league. It was working really well for the league, but I haven't been able to make it work for standard to show you how it works. But POE Stack is essentially a relatively new website that is basically Exile and Next, except more useful, quicker, and on a browser instead of a third-party program. It will track all of your income, all of your tabs, all of the profit margins that you're making while mapping. It will price up your entire tab for the bulk tool to sell. It will track the prices of things and whether or not they're going up, things that you own. It'll do all sorts of things. Everything that Exile and Next used to do, POE Stack does all of it and more. It'll also do compasses and bulk selling tools, and it even does have a build section. However, it has a lot of overlap on the build section with POE Ninja, which is also on this list. Oh, I lost my mouse. Something most people probably shouldn't use, and I still get lost at all the time, which is POEDB. This website, if you haven't used it before, is not built for the user experience. This is not easy to read, not easy to navigate, not easy to find the things that you want. But practically everything is here. When you need to get into the real nitty-gritty background stuff of any mechanic or any mob or any spell or anything, any spectre, any minion, anything, it's probably on PoEDB. I get lost here super often. This is one of the more confusing websites that exist. Its layout is not user-friendly. They're never going to make it user-friendly. It feels like more of a back-end tool than anything else, but it's worth knowing about. Most people who have got this far in the video already know about it. That's my full list. That is way too many tools. That is a 30-minute video on tools. I do apologize. All of the links to everything I talked about will be in the description of the video. Nobody made it to the end. This is way too long. I hope everybody has a good day. I will see you all next time. Goodbye.